I've got a lot to get through here, so let's go with it. We love, the Saanich Inlet is a beautiful piece of land. I have to, in full honesty, I went 25 years ago, I was the environmental consultant on the first big Badminton project, which some of you supported, some of you opposed. I learned a lot about the Saanich Inlet in those days. I learned a lot about how fragile it is. Speak slower. Me speak slower? No. Oh my God, people never say that to me. It's funny. I learned, among other things, that the Saanich Inlet has a tidal turnover of once a year only, when the water is refreshed. So all of that heating is going to accumulate and accumulate and affect all of the wildlife in there. So now we're looking at this constant presence. What about the whales, the salmon? They are living with this constant presence. What about the families that like to play on the beach and enjoy recreation? They are now looking at living with this constant presence. What about the octopi? It's a world-famous diving site in the Saanich Inlet. They've got to live with this presence as well. And so what we're looking at here is not just the LNG tankers, but this massive floating LNG plant. And you'll notice that big yellow rig at the top up there. That is flaring waste gas, 24/7, throughout the year for 25 years, all the time. And this is a big, huge project. And these are complicated bits of equipment. And you'll notice the two smokestacks on the ship also. They have to burn natural gas to run the operation. They also have to run diesel all the time to keep the ship going. It's like having a cruise ship, constantly, and the people in James Bay and Victoria know that it pollutes the air. In Vancouver, they stopped doing it because there's so much air pollution coming from this. There's constant air pollution coming out from the tankers coming in. And then look at the pipeline route. They've sent the pipeline route right down, it's just a paper thing, right down the middle of the inlet. But those of you who know the inlet, the particular gradient of the inlet, extremely steep drop-off on the west side. Down the bottom, we're talking 200 meters deep, anoxic sludge, when no one has been down there. Anoxic means no oxygen. If that stuff is broken up and comes up, it kills the plankton, the fish, and everything in its wake. You can't do anything down there. So what are you going to do? You're going to peg this pipeline to the sort of western shore, tightly somehow or other? Where is the pipeline literally going to go? I heard when I was working on the Badminton project, there's an old Lancaster bomber at the bottom of the Saanich Inlet from when they were practicing for the dam busters. It's sitting down there, but no one can find it because there's so much sludge and, since the last ice age, or long before the last ice age, has been accumulating. We found a brand new dinoflagellate species in the Saanich Inlet. It's even named after the Saanich Inlet. What happens to all the plankton, the base of the food chain in the Saanich Inlet? They have this daily rhythm of going from up to the surface in the daytime, down at night. They're constantly moving up and down through that body of warmer water when we're having to use the cooling of the Saanich Inlet to keep the natural gas cool. So let's get clear as well. Natural gas is produced in British Columbia by fracking. That means you drill down underground, you split the rock open, you inject chemicals to free stuff up. And you're putting, a typical, 330 tons probably a year of chemicals going in down there. And 10% of those are kept secret. We're not allowed to know what they are. This is not an issue for here, but it's an issue up in the northeast. This is where the gas comes from. It's what it has to do to the northeast. So you've got a mixture of sand, water, chemicals, and evasiveness in what's going on in the northeast. If the northeast was highly populated, there'd be nothing happening at all. It's only because it's more remote that it's not. But all over Europe, there's massive campaigns to stop fracking because of the toxification of the water supply in particular. This is, widespread stuff going on, huge fury going on. All countries all over Europe are beginning to ban it. France and Germany have both banned fracking entirely because of its negative environmental consequences. So we have to allow that to continue for all this period, to continue the toxification of the Northeast, to have LNG happening here. And we know that people here care about water. You have a very live issue right now with the protests happening daily in protection of water. And so there's a heroic challenge happening right now every morning, but this is a future challenge that's brewing. We also know that The methane, the fugitive methane emissions released, natural gas is 80 to 90% methane. CH4, chemical equation, if you just leave your cooker on and turn it on, that's methane escaping. Over 20 years, molecule for molecule, it traps 84 times more heat than carbon. So it's a very powerful greenhouse gas, and it negates the climate benefits that Christy Clark is promising when it gets to China. It's actually as bad as coal, depending on how you measure the methane emissions and whether you believe the industry line or the university line. And the leaks are coming out from all down the system, and when you measure them, they're there. So we need to know that this is not in any way a substitution for coal in China that's going to have a good impact on the global climate. That is a lie coming out of the Liberal government. We also should know that when LNG tankers go into Boston Harbour, they have the highest terrorist anti-alerts going on. He's got a machine gun on the front of his boat there, because when these things blow up, they really blow up. And they don't want a terrorist setting one of these things off. You've got Halifax explosion multiple here. And it spreads as a fireball. If you've got a fireball happening in the summer, when our forest is at forest fire rating 4 or 5, you're burning down the whole of the neighborhood. That's a risk we've got to live with. I don't know what your insurance rates are going to go to for fire with this thing on your doorsteps, when the insurance companies learn about the risk of this as a neighbor. In addition, natural gas is an ancient fossil fuel, and all fossil fuels cause climate change. They are responsible for 70 to 80% of the climate crisis. The other bits are eating meat, beef in particular, and cutting down forests, tearing down forests. So that is the curve that shows the CO2 emissions over the last 450 years, where the line is the 1950 level, and the vertical line is since 1950. We haven't known a level this high for a long time. And so that's the temperature projections, because carbon traps heat, methane traps heat, and we're getting heating in the environment. We've already got a 1 degree Celsius increase. That's what the treaty negotiations are all about now. This is last summer. We all experienced the yellow skies when the forest fires got out of control. I live in the forest. A lot of us live in the forest. We all had to suddenly develop emergency evacuation plans. That if climate control got out of, if the forest fires got out of control on the island, and we normally don't think of us having fires on the island, I had one 4 miles from my home, and it was scary. This is our reality. We have the Arctic melting. We have California in massive drought because of the Arctic warming, changing the jet stream, changing the rainfall patterns. And we saw our rainfall pattern, what happened to it last summer, threatening all of our water supplies. The last time CO2 levels were so high was 23 million years ago. And the impacts of CO2 today come from the fossil fuel emissions burnt 40 years ago. When we burn CO2, when we burn fossil fuels today, the impact is felt in 40 years' time, when I will be 107. Yeah. And the last time the world was 3 degrees warmer, right now, the commitments on the table in Paris by the nations head us for a warming of 3.4 degrees. The last time we were 3 degrees warmer, the sea level was 25 meters higher. That is 20 meters higher than the waterfronts at Bamberton. And that's Vancouver. All of the blue land is flooded, facing just a 2 degree rise. The whole airport, Sawasan, Delta, Richmond, Surrey, all the I-5, all gone. You can't build a seawall around all that stuff. It's got to go right up the Fraser. We're just absolutely damning the future of our children if we continue to burn more fossil fuels and to allow new fossil fuel projects like this to go ahead. So now what do you feel? When you think about the future of our world, what do you feel? I'm going to do a hands up. How many of you feel hope when you think about the future? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many of you feel worry? Everyone else. I did the same thing on the high school in Nanaimo at Woodland School. I had 400 kids in the floor of the gym, same question. Out of 400 kids, 5 felt hopeful about their future. 395 felt worry. So we've got to turn this around. Is this our beautiful, plain sailing future, or is it more like this? Clever, what you can do with Photoshop. Clever stuff, right? So, and there's no significant reduction in the temperature trends. It's a steady, steady increase. So it lends itself to some pretty scary feelings where we're heading here. And we absolutely stand at this fork in the road. Which way are we going to go? More fossil fuels, more fires, more burning, more drought, more melting, more disaster, or in the direction of green, clean, renewable energy? The First Nations elsewhere in BC are being incredible champions, standing up against the pipeline, standing up against the star sands, standing up against the tankers, and having good success. But what we have to do fundamentally is change our future story from negative to positive, from fear and worry to hope and determination, because what I'm about to show you is really exciting. Last September before last, the climate march in New York City brought out 400,000 people expressing their determination to build a different future, to have a turn away from fossil fuels, to keep the fossil fuels on the ground, to stop the fracking. We don't need to vilify fossil fuels. There have been people who have given their lives. None of us would have our technologies today. We couldn't build solar panels today if it was not for the engineering and science made possible by fossil fuels. It's simply time to thank them with respect and say it's time to move on. We don't need to vilify them and move on to the solar age. The age of fossil fuels lasts 300 years. The solar age lasts 1.5 billion years, after which time we have to evacuate planet Earth because it's getting too hot as Earth starts to become a red giant. We have to find another planet. That's a long time. And the goal we're all now embracing is to move to 100% renewable energy for all our heating, all our transport, all our electricity for the whole world. And this is an idea whose time has come. This past year, I've seen it happen. All our big demonstrations have shifted from stop this, stop that, stop the other to 100% renewables is possible. This is the vision that we're now embracing. So the power of our vision to keep us mobilized and stop us giving up and crawling down a drain in despair, the power of our vision has to be so much stronger than the power of our fears. We have to know deep in our hearts that we can do this, that we can change the world. So this is the new book I just finished writing. It got published this week, called Journey to the Future, which is a 4-day visit to Vancouver in the year 2032, when it's become one of the world's greenest cities. And it's a total celebration of how they are zero carbon. They changed education, changed democracy. Elizabeth May is premier and prime minister, all sorts of great stuff, right? You can buy it right now at journeytothefuture.ca. It's got cut off there. It's a Canadian website. So now it's our time to change our future. This is the 100% renewable energy commitment that's coming out. This was last weekend in Ottawa. And there is no planet B. We've got to move on this thing. The determination is powerful. We have the solutions. We know what to do. I laid out a book, 10, 20 years ago that laid the solutions out. This one's 2009, spells out in great detail all the solutions to the climate crisis. So now Canada, we have a change of government, we can finally be part of the solution. And this thing does not fit with that solution. This was last weekend's march in Vancouver, the same determination. And these data, 58% of Canadians want the government to phase out coal, oil, and gas. Not phase in, phase out. When this survey was first done in the summer, it said 61% of Canadians say protecting the climate's more important than pipelines and tar sands. Now it's gone up to 78%, just since the summer. It used to be 72% want a plan for creating jobs in the renewable energy sector. That's gone up to 84%. There's complete strong consensus around taking the clean energy path and stopping with fossil fuels. Mark Carney, previous governor of the Bank of Canada, now governor of the Bank of England, it's got all the insurance companies freaked out by saying, this stuff has to stay in the ground. Get your investments out quick. You're going to lose them. Everyone invested in this LNG thing is going to lose their money because we're going to stop it. So the divestment piece is part of all this. I give you warning, get your money out of fossil fuels, and I recommend also getting it out of the banks. There's another financial crash coming up, and get your money into green renewables. That's where the money's to be made. City of Vancouver has voted the whole city for electricity, transport, heating will go to 100% renewable as soon as possible, and before 2050 is their goal. China is tripling its solar capacity. Massive leadership coming out of China. This is the solar soccer stadium in Taiwan, the kind of stuff that's being built around the world. This is a massive new solar facility, on the ocean in Japan. The solar revolution's in full swing. There's been a 100-fold fall in the price in the last 40 years, and a massive uptake in demand. Look at that price fall compared to the other things. So the massive uptake in demand, and the natural, the long-term projection prices for electricity from natural gas are higher than solar. So we're not going to be burning gas for making electricity either, because soon it'll get to Canada. Right now it's about a 20-year payback if you put your own solar on the roof. In Arizona, it's an 8-year payback. So, this is rolling. You're getting communities like this built entirely from solar. And by 2050, the German Fraunhofer Institute, right now we pay 12 cents a kilowatt hour electricity. They're saying 2 cents a kilowatt hour for solar PV by 2050. This is total game changer. It's like the early cell phones cost $5,000. Now, they're still a lot, but they're way cheaper, right? So wind energy is similarly on a roll, the same fall in prices, same rise in jobs. And the work has been done to show how the planet can move to 100% renewable energy by the academics, by the people in business, by the corporate leaders. So just briefly, looking at transportation, I can't cover all of it, what's happening here. Just leaving, as well as the fully electric buses, the electric charged bicycles with trailers. Tony Hoare, stand up a minute. Tony Hoare's leading a whole bicycle trailer project to have goods delivery by trailer. And Tony actually was in the Tour de France in 1955. There you go. So right now you can't afford a Tesla, but look at the falling price of batteries. By 2020, you will be able to afford electric cars, all of us. Right now, if you can get a line of credit from the bank at 3.2% interest, you can buy an electric car on the line of credit, and your financial payments are the same as the savings in gas. Zero cost purchase for electric cars. And so BMW, knowing the math, has said, we're going to stop making gasoline cars. By 2025, they will not make any more gasoline cars. This revolution is rolling now. This is the whole thing about it. This is new from Britain, the whole lane they're experimenting with on the motorway where you can actually recharge your car as you drive along. And in Norway now, 1 in 4 of all new cars is electric. And Norway's also had the first electric ferry on a 20-minute route. It could be up to 30 minutes. As the battery strength grows, the length of the ferry routes. So that right now, the Millbay ferry could be electric, and all the shorter runs could be electric. We must never allow them to renew. We do not want LNG ferries for the shorter routes. Can't do it for the longer routes yet, but the shorter ferries routes we can. This is Salt Spring, where they put solar on the roof of the school. Huge community effort to put a 21 kilowatt system up there. Now we look at what the Souk Nation is doing down, in Souk. They built this huge, big solar project, and they're getting leadership out of it. Chief Gordon Plannis, pronunciation right? Yeah. First Nations have lived for thousands of years on this continent without fossil fuels. It's appropriate that they lead the way out of dependency and addiction on fossil fuels and rely on the power of the elements, the sun, the wind, and the sea, once again. This is real leadership. They built their own greenhouse as well. They've got their own wasabi farm as an export crop because they've got the motivation for job development, for job creation, for entrepreneurial activity, getting into the genes of the Souk First Nation. These two brothers, right here in the Malahat First Nation, have incredible timber frame construction. Timber frame construction combined with passive house design is the future for all buildings in the frigging world. When you build a passive house, you get a 90% heat load reduction. You need no engineering, no mechanicals. You can heat the whole house with the heat recovery ventilator, in the roof, or if the power cut goes down, with one candle in each room. And so these are all buildings where there's going to be a whole market for this. And part of the climate action plan for British Columbia is to make all new buildings zero carbon. This has been built in Victoria. It costs 4% more, and it's got no heating bills. So when you come to the financing, you're level financially. There's no additional cost. These are all different passive house designs, which could be built by a thriving passive house construction business on the Malahat lands. These are all, this needs to happen all across British Columbia. This is a Finnish-Israeli EcoHouse company setting plans for self-build it throughout Europe. We could be doing this. We could be getting the value added from our timber products. We could be getting the jobs from this. And look at the beauty of timber design. I'm showing you this because of the jobs implicit in building for a new zero-carbon timber frame future. And they're built, the timber frames get up to 8, 9, 10 stories high. This is all in Brussels. In Brussels, Belgium, every single new building must be a passive house as of this year. There are no other new buildings going up because of the change of policy, the change of regulations. This is the beauty of timber design. And then, cathedrals. Think what we can do when we apply our artistic ability to the combination of timber design and local jobs using our timber on the island. So then also, now we're looking at houses. If you look at that site, if there's not a big honking LNG facility, polluting the water, polluting the air, making noise and stuff, there's a lot of eco-village potentials for new projects that are zero carbon, 100% rainwater capture, strong social connection, walking communities around the world being built, which could be built on that land. 100% sewage treatment through solar aquatic greenhouses, returning water, better quality, back into the inlet. So this can be done on the land. So this is an amazing opportunity to build a green solar world. And to take the challenge of them having showing LNG in our face to say, no, that's the wrong path. Or we give up and say, yeah, I can't make a difference. I'll leave it to my children to sort out the mess. Imagine you're facing two rooms. They're both self-enclosed. You've got two doors. In door A, they're burning fossil fuels inside it. In door B, it's an enclosed space, and they're using 100% renewable energy. Which room do you want to live in? Because our Earth is a closed system. The only future is 100% renewable energy and to stop burning fossil fuels. So basically, we've got to keep calm, change the world, and remember the incredible beauty of nature, of love, of the planet that we've inherited from generation after generation of ancestors going right back to the primates. We must not be the ones who fuck it up. We've done bad enough already, but now is the turnaround time to restore that beauty, to have an incredible beauty to pass on to our children. So this is a little poem. What is sustainability? It's simply enough for all forever. 4 words that heal our earth. The simple truth of future life, the hope that leads to birth. Enough for all together, the humans, sharks, and trees, that all of us can live as one and sleep at night in peace. This whole presentation is on SlideShare if you want to get it. Thank you very much.